Now, the black market, right? And what it is, and how do you go about finding it? You're going to find it usually through a couple of different communication channels. Discord's one of them, Line is another. You can find these websites if you Google them up. Okay. Here's the thing, and this is the danger, right? Obviously, this is why IGG is very, very strictly telling people stay the hell away from it. Because what you're ultimately doing when you get involved in that, right, is the world of scammers, hackers, malware, and all the above. You're going to find all sorts of weird, wacky shit down that rabbit hole. Okay? But what I can tell you is it does exist. Well, usually the people that are doing this, okay, are going to offer you everything that is possible within the gym shop. Okay? Beyond that, they have banks, bots, okay, that basically the same crowd of people will own a whole fleet of bot accounts, and they're doing nothing more than gathering resources nonstop. They turn around and they take those banks that are full of resources and they basically sell them, is what they're doing. Okay, and it probably costs them maybe $50 when the account was bought, and they'll turn around and sell the resources for 4 billion across for $20. That's just one rate. I'm sure there are higher rates and lower rates depending on who you talk to, where you find it. Okay. Now the conversation that a lot of people have had is, well, okay, so you've got that chapter of people, right? Which, how they go about it, usually there's a middleman in between that's basically going up to a supplier. The supplier, through unknown means, just happens to have millions of gems, billions of resources, and is willing to sell it with no questions asked as to how, why, or from what other means. Now, I have a few theories, okay? One of that could be money laundering. Could be people taking people's credit cards and burning it onto accounts to pack load. There's, crypto, okay? People oftentimes will find themselves get scammed in crypto, and then they'll take the cryptocurrency that they've stolen and spend it on this game. I've seen it. I mean, it's a thing. Now, to say all of that doesn't happen would be to say that, oh, theft doesn't happen. It's like, oh no, it absolutely does. Okay, so there's that whole chapter of people. So when we look at people, they go, why is it that he just magically has all this money all of a sudden? Okay, that's one potential possibility, right? The other possibility is the conversation that people have rumored is, oh, well, it could be IGG, right? It could be the company is paying or giving people an unlimited credit card to basically go out, buy as many of whatever they want, and the massive amount of that they possibly can, so that they can then prop up their game, get more revenue, and proceed an endeavor in which, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it makes other whales want to spend more, and therefore, oh, okay, lo and behold, so that's the other rutting theory that people have had a conspiracy over in this game for a long time. It's been this way for 5 or 6, 7 years. Now, I would say that that theory does kind of hold water in the fact that people have seen a lot of accounts in this game that became overnight excessive, and we're saying to the point where it's like, we've seen the videos. I mean, you can Google it. Okay, they're easily found. You've got, oh, look at that, somebody burned 20 grand. Oh, look, somebody burned 50 grand. What nobody asks is, well, where'd that come from? Did it actually come out of his pocket? Can we verify it? It's like obviously nothing of that sort. But everybody always gets nosy into this. But yet, the funny thing is, right? You've got all the people that promote the game, right? YouTubers and others. Okay, it's not unpublicly known that you can join the creative turf and you can get gems, $100 packs that way. If your videos get popular and you get a couple thousand views, you can get a $100 pack for free. Okay, so to say that people are like, oh, it's IGG sponsored, it's like, well, to some extent that does hold water. That does somewhat exist. Okay, but it comes in the form of sponsorships. Now, sponsorships, obviously people are like, well, how do I get a sponsorship? How do I get an IGG sponsor? How do I do this? Well, there is obviously a legitimate means by which you can do that. You can start a YouTube channel, upload a video, playing Lords Mobile and upload it to the creator. Then you basically do this day in, day out like me, and you eventually accrue gems and resources and vice versa through the means of winning those contests. Okay. And you can do everything from pictures to videos to God knows what else on many different platforms. Social media is a fun thing, and yeah, they'll compensate you in some way, not monetarily that I know of, but I'm sure that those possible options probably exist for some of the higher end, more popular users on the platform. Namely, to give you a few examples, okay, we know Mr. Beast has gotten sponsored by Lords Mobile. We know that when you look at people that are, that come up from time to time, Avatrex, I think Worthy Prince has come up a couple of times in the past. Now, I say this in the past, okay, because I was part of the same platform that a lot of people had started up, and this is a couple of years ago, but IGG has tried to run it a couple of different times. And it was called We Gamers back then, but there's always been a platform in some capacity for them to try and incentivize people to play their game. It's always been this way. It's always been out there. So it's not some public secret. Now, some of the major accounts that are out there, I think it's not deniable, but I think there's enough reason to believe that a lot of the major accounts that have tens of thousands of dollars are either from very rich individuals or they're pooled money accounts. That is to say that back in the day, even way early in the game, people would pool money into a single account so that they had a Rally Lead account, and then they would share it among all people. Oftentimes, that is what I think is really going on. So when people look at it and they go, "Oh, it's IGG sponsored," it's like, not really. But there are a lot of YouTubers that will try to spite or care into people's emotions, whether it's truthful or not. I will say that, at least from my perspective on it, and this is just knowing the game of the years, is that people will either pool their money. There are people that money launder or vice versa. There are people that literally get sponsored to play this game, paid by IGG or through outside companies. And whether those outside companies are payment processors like Huawei or Aptoid or whoever, there are many different angles, but it is no accident that links show up in videos. Okay, if you ever question that and you wonder, well, I wonder how come that's in there. It's like, well, I wonder how come YouTubers make a living doing sponsorships. It's almost as if they're getting paid to do it. It's almost like it's not an accident. So as much as that sound comes off sounding negative, it is absolutely a thing. So it's like when the average guy comes in, plays the game, and they're spending their hard-earned capital on a credit card, you also have to take that with a grain of salt, but consider that as a real possibility whenever you're looking at these videos, because that is kind of the community in general, and that's a no bullshit filter on that. That's like the clear as day, truth as bud. Looking at it with through the pane of glass. Okay, like that shit is plain as day, and everybody knows it. Now, beyond that, without naming any names, really, I think if you go any further than that, right, you get into the nitty gritty of, sponsored accounts, money laundering, yeah, I think there is to some extent. I think you could probably make a case for it because people have heard of conversations about some of the top players being involved in very questionable backgrounds. There are some of the people that, they were the top player in the game like a year ago, and then a couple of years later, they're like, "Oh, hey, he's getting in trouble. I wonder why." And if you're wondering what that conversation about is, it's more or less, surrounded by, for. It's amazing to me though how like people are just starting to wake up to that possibility. It's like, oh, the game is actually on the Epic Game Store. It's on Steam. If you didn't realize, there are many different avenues now for people to get money into this game. Meaning that you could buy Steam cards and convert the money in Steam cards and get it into this game. You could play Epic games. Go get gold on WoW and bring it back into this game. That is the many different avenues that a person could get money into this game these days. Cryptocurrency is not even alluded from that. Aptoid is cryptocurrencies. Always, percentage bonuses and stuff like that. There are so many different ways that people have gotten discounts or benefits or advantages. Now, obviously, every time AGG goes in and says, "Oh, we're trying to make the game fair," it's like, define that. What is fair? You know, because if you're on the Google App Store or the Apple Play Store, you're getting fucking scammed. And I'm telling you the truth because you look around it, you are absolutely getting scammed in comparison to a lot of those other options that are out there. And so if you have been playing that way, just take this with a grain of salt, but there are better options out there, okay? And whether they're safe or not, that's a different conversation. You know, third party app stores have the same problem that a lot of other app stores have. They're not regulated in the same way that the main Play stores are, which means that their likelihood of malicious intent and apps and stuff of that nature is there. So the possibility of people downloading an app and getting bank malware on their phone and then losing all of their money is a real possibility. It's not some accident that people are showing up. And I've seen people in the comment section of my videos even complain about how, like, well, if I get hacked, I go to IGG support, they can't do shit. And people are like, I wonder what the hell I'm supposed to do if I spend all this money on a game and then I can't get into it. Yeah, that's a problem. And it does happen. And, it's just take it with a grain of salt, but you do need to be careful whenever you look at all these other options because that is a very real thing. But not all of them are obviously bad. But, take it with a grain of salt, but it is out there. But on that note, I just thought I'd go ahead and talk about it a little briefly because I feel like there's a lot of people that they might ask me what my thoughts on it is. I don't think IGG really gives two shits. At the end of the day, they're making money, irregardless of whether they sponsor the game or not. It's not really their business to care. All they care about is the end goal, which is their product. So for them to have sponsored other players, I think is kind of ludicrous. I don't think it's happening. That's my 2 cents. And when I say that, I'm saying they're not giving them a fucking free, here's a free card and spend as much as you want. There's obviously a limit of some kind. Now, whether they get capital or not, I'm sure you can ask many of the major YouTubers because they all did one way or the other back in the day. Hundreds of thousands of gems for YouTube videos. It's not some fucking public secret. It's been there for years. And, the fact that they don't say anything about it just says a lot more than I think is being said. That said, though, take it with a grain of salt. That's the truth. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.